Lights they flicker and the candles glitter like you're in a thriller. Heart goes pound, pound, pound. Ghostly figures, they can get so bitter. Sure you want to enter, you can turn back now. You don't know where I've been. What's going on inside? Where the monsters like to come alive, come alive. Do you really wanna know me? I'm really not that cozy. It's up to you, so you decide, you decide. Could you love me up my words till the coffin's in the dirt? Try to break me like a curse, you know that will never work. I'm a little bit absurd, I like dancing on the verge. Anyone can love a pretty little mansion, but could you love a haunted, haunted house? Or could you love me now? A haunted, haunted, I'm a haunted house. A haunted, haunted house. If you're too scared, get out. A haunted, haunted, I'm a haunted house. Broken windows and a warning scribbled on my wall saying that you better turn around. Wouldn't be the first to try to burn me down. Your move, you do. Could you love me up my words till the coffin's in the dirt? Try to break me like a curse, you know that will never work. I'm a little bit absurd, I like dancing on the verge. Anyone can love a pretty little mansion, but could you love a haunted, haunted house? Or could you love me now? A haunted, haunted, I'm a haunted house. A haunted, haunted house. If you're too scared, get out. A haunted, haunted, I'm a haunted house. Could you love a haunted, haunted house? Or could you love me now? A haunted, haunted, I'm a haunted house. A haunted, haunted house. If you're too scared, get out. A haunted, haunted, I'm a haunted house. My words till the coffin's in the dirt. Anyone can love a pretty little mansion.
Hey Rage, it's almost Halloween. Do you have any favorite ghost stories? Oh! Okay, follow you to Cabin 22? On my way. Dave Weaver and his dog Rage needed a vacation. What they got was a Halloween weekend that led them into a terrifying adventure of a lifetime. A murder mystery wrapped in the dark spell of a place built on sour soil. A land whose curse was only held at bay by the knowing abilities of a few dedicated people and a species other than human, holding on to its very existence, and others fighting for their very souls. Cabin 22, a haunting original novella, a traditional holiday reading, starts its 6-night presentation on October 25th at 8 p.m. Eastern Time on Journey Through the Gate on YouTube and Rumble.
Are you there? The Cabin. On a fall day in 2001, I thought it a wonderful idea to rent one of those log cabins out on Montesano Mountain in Alabama. It would be perfect and reasonably priced for a long week with my two sons. Most all had windows offering a stunning view, and a tree-covered mountain valley and its colored quilt of leaves would be a breathtaking sight. The porches off the back of the cabins had barbecue grills, and the thought of grilling burgers and watching the sun slip behind the hills would be lovely. The decision was made for long walks on the trails and time together, and the day arrived to much excitement, and we entered the cabin, number 22. There was a small kitchen, and 2 bedrooms were off the spacious living room. The boys tossed their sleeping bags on the cots and ran back outside and explored the area. We enjoyed the trails and had our first barbecue and settled in exhausted for our first night. I could hear off in the distance an approaching storm was announcing its arrival. I got up to check the door and look outside the huge picture window at the scene of the lightning just starting to streak the sky. It was beautiful. I went back to bed and laid awake as the claps of thunder exploded in the distance and bursts of lightning lit up the bedroom. Soon I drifted off to sleep. And then I remember a terrible nightmare, so vivid that I swore I was awake, and it took the very breath from me. I was in the same bed. My heart was pounding against my chest, and I was drenched in sweat. I was pinned to the bed by an invisible force, and I could see the empty room with each flash of lightning, yet I could not move. Not my hands, not my feet, not my head, just my eyes, and I scanned around the room to look for this invisible force that was holding me down. Or was it just fear? Flash! The lightning lit up the room, and I knew instinctively I was not alone. As if to echo the thought, thunk! A wet thud at the foot of the bed trapped my heart in its grip as I stayed there, helpless. Thunk! This time I almost felt the bang at the foot of the bed vibrating on the floor. It sounded huge, and somehow wet is the only way that I can describe it. The thought that this was a dream went through my head, and I remember saying to myself, "Wake up, wake up, wake up." But I was still there, trapped in that bed. I squeezed my eyes closed, and I said a prayer over and over and over in my head. Thump! An invisible something punched at the bottom of the bed, right between my feet. My eyes flashed open and nothing was there. Thump! A wet, dragging sound that seemed to move away, and I stretched my vision as far as I could see. What was making this noise? Oh, just wake up already, I said to myself, and what I hoped was an empty room. In the lightning's flash, I saw something in the corner, by the door, huge and black, almost like a shapeless gooey blob. It slithered out the door and took a turn towards my son's room. Flash! The lightning went off, and I saw that it was gone. I heard a thud, but it was further away, and in the dream, it ended. I woke up, startled into new surroundings, and the sun was just coming through the window. I quickly sat up. I was soaked with sweat, surveyed around the room to get my bearings. Wiped my hand over my head. It was just a dream. I leaned forward toward the end of the bed, just looking for anything that might be out of place there. Nothing. You're losing it, girl, I told myself. That was a humdinger of a dream. I shook it off and I got up and quick ran and checked on the boys who were asleep. One had fallen asleep with the flashlight on and I clicked it off and I pulled the sleeping bag up around him. I quick got dressed and I made some coffee and a little breakfast. When the boys got up, the bustle started. Talk about the wicked storm floated over the smell of pancakes and bacon. Smiling, I asked them if they were ready to take on the blue trail, the one that goes down around the side of the mountain today. The trails all had color names, and Big Blue, as they called it, was a favorite. I guess, said my little one, I didn't get much sleep. An odd feeling hit me when he said this, and I clutched my coffee cup a little harder. Oh? I answered. Why is that? I was up all night. Something was in my room, and nobody would wake up or answer me when I yelled. I didn't hear you. Mom, I screamed loud. I swear I saw it with my flashlight. Something big and black, like a huge garbage bag filled with goo. Oh, you're just dreaming, you goof, said my older son as he kind of punched him in the arm. Well, it was loud, and it hit my bed, and it banged on the floor, and it smelled bad, too. For reasons only boys know, they both laughed at this. I was nowhere near laughter. My head spun with the realization my dream was a living nightmare, but I didn't want to scare them. I held it together, and I told them I was going to see if Mr. McGee, the cabin manager, and I was going to ask him if he had a larger cabin. And the stove wasn't working that good, so pack up your stuff, and we'll go see him before we hit the trails. They finished with a chorus of, "Oh, Mom," with mouths full of pancakes. I tried my best to shudder from the inside out as I continuously scanned the room over my coffee cup. Down at the big log cabin manager's office, I left the boys out front in the car. They were punching each other and laughing, which was a normal I was okay with right now. "Hey, Mrs. Harper, how's the stay?" Came a voice from behind the big bear statue that was carved with a chainsaw by no other than the owner of this voice. "Hey, Mr. McGee. It's okay." I tried to start off positive. "The view is lovely." He smiled as he came from behind the counter and the bear. "I ordered it just for you," he joked. I laughed a little and asked him if we could move to another cabin. "Why, sure. I have one further down the path. That be okay?" "Yes, I will take it," and handed him the key. "Is there anything wrong with this one?" as he reached out and took the key from my hand. "No, not really. It is lovely. Just some banging and sounds all night." "Oh, well, must be some raccoons up in the roof space. I'll have to take a look into that. Been a while since I rented that one. I had a long boarder there for, stayed almost a year. Old Bob. Poor guy loved to fish down at the lake. One day, poor guy, he lost his footing and fell in. Hit his head on one of those rocks and drowned. Awful thing. About a month or so back. Took them a while to find him, too. When they pulled him out, he was darn near all black with that river moss." My eyes widened as he handed me the key. "Will you be staying long?" Welcome in, welcome in. Let me know if you guys can hear me now. 5x5. How y'all doing? Can you hear me? Can you hear me now? I think it was something very simple, like the actual microphone wasn't plugged in. So happy Halloween, everybody. If you can hear me, I'm going to wait for my chat to give me a 5 by 5. Oh, good, good. Thank you, Grey Wolf. Welcome in, everybody. I wanted to say earlier, I love each and every one of you. Thank you so much for your patience with me and the channel and the YouTube and the back and forth and the packing and the moving. Thank you so much for giving me this time. I'll tell you, it's not easy taking a 3-bedroom house and making it into, your life smaller. It takes a lot of time and effort and a lot of things going on. So I appreciate you so much. Thank you for your patience. That's number one. Number two, welcome to this wonderful spooky season. If you are new listening to this story, what you just heard was the prequel to this wonderful tale. And I, I don't feel bad saying that, feeling like I'm boasted about myself because I don't take credit for this story. First of all, the idea came from the wonderful Steve Stockton. It was his birthday, and I wanted to give him a gift. So I took a shot at writing a little ghost story. That's what you just heard. And that was The Cabin, and it was based on some actual events in a little place called Huntsville, Alabama on Montesano Mountain, in these wonderful cabins that they have there looking over this beautiful view of the mountains. It's absolutely gorgeous, especially at fall. And after that, it just kind of took off because Steve said, go ahead and write a whole story about Halloween. Put everything about Halloween in the story, but, see what you can do. Make it like a mystery. And I said, okay, I'll see what I can do. And then I started getting these characters coming to me. And some of them actually showed up. And I can remember feeling like Skeet was right here in the room when I was writing about him in the cave. And, Jeb and absolutely Tater and so many of the wonderful characters in here. So I'm going to make this short. Thank you so much for being here. This is a wonderful Halloween tradition. I love spending it with you. Thank you for being here with me tonight. We did the prequel. We're going to do parts 1 and 2, and I hope you enjoy it. But what I really hope is that maybe you find a little bit of yourself in one of these characters. I tried to bring in every kind of light worker, every kind of type of character that might have been involved in a story like this. But I also tried to give you a little bit of how they got to where they are. Childhood trauma can really cause lifelong effects. And, as light workers, we need to look at that in people we're trying to help. And other people were they just born bad? Was it greed perhaps that turned them evil, or jealousy or other things? And on the other flip side, you've got light workers that are maybe just coming into their abilities and not quite understanding what they're used for or how to use them for, the greater good or just, to be effective in the world. And it's always a struggle to try to figure out where you fit. And I think with light workers, we just find out when we let go and let the light, we kind of wind up where we need to be. And that's a little bit about how this story is. Everybody just kind of winds up where they need to be. And then you've got others that are more knowing and more dedicated and more understanding of some of the things going on in the surroundings. So there you go. I hope you enjoy it. It can get a little spooky. So if there are kids in the room, uh, just know that there may be some parts in here that are going to make you jump. So I love you all very much. Without further ado, Cabin 22. Happy Halloween. The Strange Case of Cabin 22. Dave took the turns on the mountain road slow. He just passed a sign that read, "Beware of falling rock." What did that even mean? What are you supposed to do if rocks start falling out of the sky while you're driving? That would be just about right to finish off this week, he said out loud to nothing, and he finished the thought in his head. Man crushed by rock. Misses divorce hearing. Widow gets dog. As far as Dave was concerned, his buddy Rage, a large black shepherd, was his most valuable possession. He reached up and adjusted the rearview mirror to look into the back seat at his sleeping friend, and spoke out loud again. "No worries. She can have the house, but she's not getting you. We're almost there, buddy." And Rage seemed to react to this in a positive way, and sat up, tongue gleefully hanging out of the side of his mouth, wide awake and alert to his friend's voice. Dave Weaver was joining the ranks of the unaffected husband, soon to be bachelor squad. Odd how you can grow so apart from a spouse that the space between you grows past the point of caring and does a deadfall into just make it over territory. This 2-week trip proved to be a lifesaver into this mountain majesty of Montesano Mountain's beauty and solitude was just what he needed. He had rented a cabin there, and Mr. McGee, the owner of the property, said there was good fishing, even late into the fall, and the scenery was a healing in a way. And added this southern beauty, "You just come on up and leave your troubles and ex-wife down in the valley. Bless her heart." Ex-wife. He thought out loud. Gotta get used to that one, Rage. Rage, reacting again to his comment, moved into the passenger seat and stuck his head out of the window. Dave patted him on the back and thought to himself, he filled that position just fine. They made their way up the winding road and toward the cabins. Dave found the turn-off sign that said Montesano Lodge and Cabins. A little way up the road, he passed a sign to his left that said, "To RV Park, turn here." And remember, he was told to pass that one. On up the road a piece, you'll see the sign for the cabins. And he did. He could see the clearing and the large building up ahead and pulled up to the manager's office. A large cabin lodge with a sign that hung on one side of what looked like a little general store. It swung from the green metal roof and declared, "Fresh biscuits every morning." It actually had apostrophes in the place of the E in every and the G in morning. He was getting used to this southern charm and loved that it was freely offered in conversation unapologetically. And in his state of mind leaving the city rush of New York, he just loved it. He had taken a new job in Huntsville and had a month to shake off his past and start new. He pulled up to the other end of the beautifully built lodge. The pecan-colored logs with gray-looking cement between each one looked like it was built by the hands of Paul Bunyan himself, and he laughed at that thought. "Guess I have to brush up on my southern legends, boy." He smiled and ruffed the fur of the dog's head. "Stay here. I will be just a minute." He walked up to the door that was bookended by a 6-foot Indian chief carved out of a log, offering him a red and white peppermint candy with one outstretched hand. Odd combo, he thought. On the other side, a totem pole, just as high, with 4 faces carved into the wood, one each more grotesque than the other. "Nice work," he said to it out loud and gave it a nod as he walked through the door to the office. A little bell above tinged at the opening and closing of the door. The theme continued in here with a huge carving of a bear in a quaint lobby with a picture of Indians on its endless ride into a battle long over. Another on the side wall covered a cozy-looking teepee by a lake with a glow from inside that seemed so nice right about now, and a large oil painting of an Indian chief over a brown leather couch. He saw no one behind the counter and called out, Mr. McGee? He heard a rustle from the wall behind the big bear. Mrs., you must be Mr. Weaver from the big city. An older woman emerged into the view, and Dave smiled. Guilty, he joked. She was one of the most comfortably put together people he had ever seen. She wore a dress of blue with a white flower print, short curly gray hair, and naturally pink cheeks under the bluest eyes framed by little gold-rimmed glasses. She transferred her knitting into one hand and extended the other toward him, and he shook it. I'm Mrs. McGee. Mr. McGee is out back putting the finishing touches on my eagle. Your eagle? He asked as he smiled. He just loved her demeanor. Oh, yes, he's always carving with that noisemaker of his. I bet him one of my strawberry rhubarb pies he couldn't make me an eagle. Dave laughed at this a bit. He was starting to understand. Looks like I'm going to be doing some extra baking. It's coming along right good. They both chuckled at this. Well, you don't need to stand here a-jawing your day away with me. You'll be wanting your key and getting to the fishing. You got your dog with you. Mr. McGee says you got a buddy with you. Startled a bit at this, he thought it was okay and said, Yes, Rage. He's in the car. That okay? He had hoped. Oh, sure. She waved a hand in a forget-about-it gesture. We love pets. You catch up after him, and don't let him bother the other guests or chase my cat Fritz there, and we won't have no problems. She gestured toward a tall bookcase where a large, beautiful black Persian cat laid on the very top of it. It was staring right at him with green eyes. It flitted its tail as if to say to Dave, That's right, don't start none, won't be none. And Dave laughed. He is very well behaved, ma'am. Good. Glad to hear it. Plenty of wide open space for him to run round here. You both will enjoy your stay. 2 weeks, is it? Yes, ma'am. 2 weeks. Gonna relax, do some reading, and of course some fishing. Well, good place for it. There's fresh bait every day in the vending machine. Worms, mostly. The vending machine? He asked, never hearing of such a thing. A worm machine? And just smiled. Yup, Mr. McGee sells chicken livers in the storefront cooler, but I'm not letting those worms in my shop. Machines round back takes quarters, or you can dig your own. He did chuckle out loud at this, as she pushed an index card and a pen toward him, and turned around to a board with gold hooks and keys hanging from it. Just put your address, phone, license plate number, and the dates you're staying on the card. Of course, your name, too. I'll be needing your driver's license as well. Keep it legal-like. You're all paid up, Mr. McGee said. He shook his head at the simple check-in and thought he could get used to this trusting thing. How quaint it all was, and started to fill out the card. There's a small fridge in the cabin and some sundries in the shop. I try to keep hot dogs and fresh hamburger meat, and there are always fresh pies and biscuits and sausage in the mornings if you have the need. My canned goods, too. If you go hungry round here, it'll be your own fault, Mr. Weaver. You can call me Dave. He smiled. And you can call me Mrs. McGee. She smiled and placed the key on the card, and he had just finished. The key read number 22, faded gold print. It is down the path to the right. You won't have a problem finding it. Shop closes at 10 p.m. sharp, but if you find the need, Mr. McGee is usually up at his fire pit out back. If you see the smoke, he's there, and he can get what you need, but don't make it a habit. She smiled. Ding! A sound went off behind her from an unseen room. "There's my pies. Fresh apple and pecan today, Mr. Dave." He took a deep breath in. He could smell the apple pie, and it warmed his heart. Funny how smells could do that. Ting, ting! A different bell behind him. The doorbell, so to speak. A large man in overalls and faded red t-shirt darkened the door with his sighs. "I finished that sink faucet, Mrs. McGee." "Well, thank you, Tater," she smiled. "There's a loose board on the front porch of 11 and a bad hinge on the screen door of number 3, if you'd be so kind." "Sure thing," he offered as she took down the keys to those cabin numbers. Tater, oh, these names, Dave thought, almost shuffled, head down, as he put one key down on the counter that had a 22 on it, and picked up the other 2 keys. "Right on it, Mrs. Sam." And he shuffled out as slowly as he came in, never even looking at Dave, leaving the tinging bell behind him. "Whoa, he's a big guy," Dave said almost without realizing it. "Oh, yes. Tater's heart's as big as he is. Tater Daniels. He's our caretaker. Lives out in the cabin behind the lodge. Known him and his family, for years," she offered, and then swatted a hand in his direction. "But you don't need to bother with all that. You need to get on to your fishing, and I need to get to my pies." He thanked her and tinged the bell on his exit. Oh, Dave." He stopped at her voice and turned around. "You're not one of those jittery city people, are you?" He had no idea what she meant, and his face probably said so, because she finished with this. "I mean, the woods out here. They have some scary sounds you may not be used to. Things go bump in the night around here." She laughed at this a bit, like it was a joke, and he smiled. "Don't you get caught up in all that gossip either. Ain't nothing in my cabins or these woods that God himself didn't put here. You'd be wise to remember that, Dave." This seemed odd to him, but he thanked her and gave her a little wave and a nod as he went out the door. Without even thinking, he took a peppermint from the Indian's outstretched hand and said thanks to the statue. Getting in the car, he was greeted by Rage, who amused himself at his absence by watching a taunting squirrel in a nearby tree. "Hey, boy," he said, getting in, and chuckled at the thought of Rage having some fun here, too, chasing squirrels and rabbits on the trails he had read about, and pet the dog as he moved back over to the pasture side. "You get to have all the fun you want, I'm told. Just leave that cat in there alone. That one looks like trouble." He laughed as he unwrapped the peppermint. His waiting friend started to actually drool a bit, watching him. Rage loved candy, of all kinds, and he palmed the mint and offered it to his friend. "Here you go, boy. We're on vacation. All diets are off." Rage ate it with 2 crunches, and they drove down the dirt road toward the cabins. Dave parked to the side of the little cabin, set far off the road. It almost looked like it hung on a cliffside of the mountain. The scene was breathtaking. There was a little roofed porch with a pile of firewood on one side, and yes, a rocking chair too. Log handmade railings surrounded the porch, and a screen door in faded green paint, a gold number 22 at its right. A lantern hung on a black wrought iron hook above it. Kerosene, he thought, and marveled at the cabin's simple elegance. "Let's go in and see, boy," he said to Rage as they both got out of the car. Rage ran right up to the tree in the very front of the yard and took a long pee on it. "Well, it's official," Dave said. "It's ours now." And he laughed. He took the key out of his jeans pocket and walked up to the screen door, opened it, and inserted the key into the old lock on the door. It stuck a bit, and he quick pulled back his hand from the knob. Had it just turned in his hand? Don't be silly, he thought, as he reached for it again, jiggled the key, and it gave way. He opened the front door to the huge room. Come on, boy. Rage ran past him into the room and started sniffing everything in his sight. There was a large brown leather sofa, complete with knitted afghan he was sure was handmade by Mrs. McGee. A huge fireplace with an iron hook inside for heating up pot full of stew, he surmised. There was 2 small rooms to his right, bedrooms, he guessed, and the bathroom, called a half bath by Mr. McGee on the phone call they had had. Showers are down by the lodge. 4 stalls in there, hot as water on the mountain. Open all night if you choose, but there's a commode in the cabin, running water, gas stove in the kitchen, but no electric. Kerosene lanterns are provided, and a barbecue on the back porch runs on propane. There's a small fridge I run on a gas generator out back. I'll turn that on and get her cold for you before you stay. All that was just fine with Dave, and 0 phone service out here was okay with him too. He had talked enough with lawyers and his soon-to-be ex for a while, and remembered there's a landline in the office if need arises, also part of his conversation with the soft-spoken owner of this gorgeous property. The picture window in the back of the cabin overtook his vision. The view was breathtaking, and he started toward it to get a better look. He walked right into an invisible cloud of stench. The smell that overtook his nostrils was overwhelming. It was a thick smell of death and decay, mixed with a wet, mucky odor. "Whoa," he said as he reached back behind him to reopen the door and get some air in there. "Oh, must have been closed up for a while," he said to Rage as the dog emerged from a back room and sat down by the fireplace. "You see a dead squirrel in there? Oh, man, that's bad." He moved toward the window, holding his nose, and looked to see which one opened. He found 2 smaller ones on the sides of the big picture window that did just that. He dropped his gym bag and he threw them open to their screens. A lovely mountain's fresh air poured in, and he took a deep breath. "Gonna be a bit to get that stench out," he said to Rage, who was now on the couch, seeming to pick out his favorite spots in their new digs. Dave leaned on the windowsill to breathe in again. As he did, he looked into the tiny kitchen, with its small gas stove and tiny fridge on the counter, running as promised. The cabinets matched the wood grain paneling throughout the cabin's decor. There were many of them compared to the size of the kitchen, and every one of them had its doors wide open. The provided pots and pans spilled out onto the floor, and there were plastic cups on the counter and silverware spread all over its surface, and the matching drawers hung open and yawned out dish towels like tongues from wooden mouths. Some welcome, Dave thought, and he remembered the key Tater turned in at the office. It said 22. Man, he had just left here. And he fixed the sink faucet, he said. Why would he leave it like this? He questioned out loud to Rage, that was now in one chair in the room and looking out the window. Some view, huh, buddy? And this made Dave smile. He quick picked up the pans and threw them into the cabinets and swished the cups and eating utensils into the small sink with his arm. I'll be washing those, he said, and finished closing the drawers and cabinets, opened the fridge, and stuck his hand in it, and it was cold. All good there, he mused. Hey, boy, you hungry? He called to the dog, still looking out the window. The mountain's trees were filled with fall's colors, and Rage would love this, he thought, as much as he would. The last bit of work ahead was to unload the truck. He thought now about the few groceries he had quickly grabbed before the ride up. Rage's favorite canned food, one of the 5 cases now filling the back of his SUV. The other 4 cases were Boston Lager, and he planned on drinking every single one of them. Come on, boy. Let's go get some air. Stay close. We will go run later. With the moves of a dog that understood every word Dave said, and there really was no proof that he didn't really, Rage jumped down and headed toward the door, and they both headed to unload the truck. Staring at the contents of the truck, Dave was actually winding down a bit, he felt, and thought he'd not rush this. He was on vacation, after all. The things he packed were minimal, all of his real belongings in a storage unit closer to his new job down in Huntsville. What he had here was Dave's vacation gear. 2 fishing poles, a tackle box, a pair of heavy boots, a down coat, his gym bag with a few jeans, t-shirts, a flannel shirt or 2, several pairs of those boxers his ex-wife, hated, and shaving and other toiletries. He touched his face and thought, hell, I may not even shave for a while. What you think, boy? He looked at Rage, who was laying on the dirt drive, chewing on a pine cone between his paws. Oh, man, don't eat that. He reached down. Give it here, boy. And Rage stood up and seemed to look past him. A slight growl came from his throat. Dave quick slipped a hand under his collar instinctively and looked in the direction that had Rage's focus. What do you see, boy? And Dave caught a glimpse of a large black mist floating just above the ground, coming from behind the cabin and moving into the tree line. He stretched to see it as it faded into the deeper thickness of the woods and out of sight. What the hell? Rage just growled, a longer disapproving thought all his own in response. I know, buddy, right? I don't like it either. Smoke from a barbecue, maybe? A swarm of flies? Dave had no idea, really, and said so. I don't know, but we'll stay away from it, okay, buddy? Rage's tail wagged a bit now, and he let go the collar as he said, Let's eat. He turned to the truck now to decide what to bring in. The bag of steaks, canned beans, and coffee he brought. For sure, the case of Royal Canin beef for shepherds. Stuff costs more than the steaks, he thought, and smiled, and a case of beer. Come on, boy, let's fire up that grill. Rage trotted off toward the front door, and Dave gave a glancing look toward the tree line, and it gave him an uneasy feeling. He wasn't one to jump to conclusions, but he was up here all alone, really, and just then he was glad he had brought that 12-gauge, and he was even happier right now about the beer. The steak smelled great, a damn sight better than it did in the cabin for sure. The beer was warm, but he put some to chill in the fridge, and it was just fine for now. Rage ate his canned beef without chewing it, it seemed, and he knew what he had set his sights on was that T-bone he was promised on the road on the way up. It never ceased to amaze him how damn smart this dog was. Dave smiled as he flipped one of the steaks over and asked his buddy, How would you like your steak, sir? Medium? Medium rare? Dave smiled at the look on Rage's face when he turned it up to look at him. His ears perked up, and his eyes seemed to sparkle. Ha! Rare it is, monsieur. He laughed at this. He was feeling better, and you can best bet he bought Rage a T-bone. Bought several of them. This dog and this move was saving his life, he felt. And I'd rather have the money go to what he wanted for a change. His wife was getting plenty. She had seemed to go batshit crazy after speaking to that ambulance-chasing lawyer of hers, and he was hurt, really. You want anything else, buddy? A Porsche, maybe? Rage just tossed his head to one side, as if to say, Can I? Dave chuckled and finished off the beer. and leaned it against the railing that rounded the whole back porch. "One down," he said, and reached out to open the screen door. A large thud seemed to come from inside the cabin, and Dave threw open the door, and they both ran in, thinking the darn roof fell in. What the? Dave stood with his hand on his forehead, looking around the large room. Nothing, he thought. Nothing? He checked the other rooms. The simple cots and old dressers in each room were all intact. Not a thing out of place. And he went to the front porch and looked all around. That sounded like an elephant came through the roof, buddy. But Rage hadn't followed him outside, and he quick ran up the walk and into the cabin to make sure all was okay. "Rage!" he called out, and he heard his bark from one of the back rooms. He ran in that direction, and Rage was there, about 3 feet from the back corner of the room, his hair standing up on the back of his neck, leaning forward in a growl mixed with barks, meaning he didn't like what he was seeing. "Rage? What's there?" As if the dog could explain, Rage just kept on with his protest as he backed up between that corner and Dave. In a lower voice now, "What's there, boy? What do you see?" As if to signal it was gone, Rage just sat down at his feet and started to pant, his tongue leaning out one side, saying, whatever it was gone. "What the hell, man?" Dave said aloud as he walked toward the corner and touched the wall. He didn't know what to expect, but he did it anyway. It was ice cold. Dave shook this off. Just an eerie, chilling, goosebump-raising feeling went through his body all at once, and he quick pulled his hand away. "Come on, boy. That's enough of that. Steak!" He said the last with a guttural humor, like a primal man speak, for red meat eaters. Rage understood, and off they went. Dave paused just a second before returning to the barbecue on the porch, grabbed a colder beer from the fridge, and realized the smell. It was completely gone. 4 beers later, and full stomachs to boot, the pair enjoyed the descending sun beyond the waterfall of trees in the distance. Rage chewing on what was left of his bone, and Dave halfway through a chapter of one of his new books. He had grabbed several at the Target when he bought the steaks. This one on a whim that seemed to fit his mood. The Subtle Art of Not Giving a F by Mark Manson. He had laughed when he saw the title and grabbed it with his usual thriller crime novels. It was turning out to be a self-help, life coaching thing, and not too bad. But he thought he'd finish the night with Grisham's The Whistler. He had heard a rustling off the porch, somewhere in the deep leaves below, and he took his feet down off the railing and looked down. He saw a deer jumping through off to the wood and thought it had been a long time since he had seen one. He was never into hunting. Fishing was as far as it went for Dave, and he and Rage watched it as it disappeared into the deep woods. It was almost dizzying to look down off the porch. It had been built to jut off the edge of the rock on the mountain for a full effect of the scenery there, and it worked for sure. But looking down, it made Dave think twice on trusting that railing, and he backed up off it quick and shuddered at the thought of taking an unwanted dive off of it. "Okay, boy, I'm getting the rest of my stuff out of the truck. You want to pee?" He went into the cabin, and Dave thought for a second, reached into his gym bag, and got out a long black leash, and Rage just gave him a look. "I know, buddy, but if you start running after a deer out here, I won't find you in the dark." And he clipped it on Rage's collar, and off they went. He grabbed the shotgun he had wrapped in a sleeping bag and threw another canvas bag over his shoulder. He had got him an old coffee kettle to use on the stove, and he drank it black, so that's all the morning start he needed. Rage's favorite water bowl was in there, with a couple of flashlights batteries, and his old transistor radio. Some snacks and other stuff he grabbed. "Okay, boy, the other stuff can wait till morning." And he locked the truck. Walking up to the cabin, he heard a scream. A loud, blood-curdling one. Rage heard it too. It sounded like it came from down the path toward the number 20 and number 19 cabin spots. Again it came, now sounding like it was further up the path, toward the number 24 and 25 spots. "What in the world is happening around here?" he said to the air. He had heard some birds out here can sound like someone screaming. Red foxes, too. Man, it had to be to move like that, he thought. Eerie, just the same. Sure sounded like a scream, he said to Rage. As they reached the porch, he heard it again, behind them now. They both hurried in the door and locked it. He leaned against the door for a moment. What in the hell was that? He dropped the bag and unrolled the 12-gauge on the counter, located the box of shells from his gym bag, and loaded it. While doing so, he remembered Mrs. McGee's words. "The woods out here have some scary sounds you may not be used to. Things go bump in the night around here." "Huh, I guess so. Gonna be a hell of a night, boy," Dave said, and Rage looked up. "It's okay, though. We have Dad's old Betty and each other. What could get us here?" All three of them settled onto the couch, Dave, Rage, and the 12-gauge. After making a roaring fire, and still very full from the steaks they had, they enjoyed sharing the pork rinds anyway. The new Grisham novel in hand, all seemed to feel a little bit better now. The warm fire and the crackling fireplace just felt right. The couch was comfy, and Rage was full and happy, and satisfied with taking one for every 2 pork rinds that Dave ate. And neither one of them noticed the face staring at them from the window off the back porch. You have been listening to The Strange Case of Captain 22. Stay tuned for part 2. Will Dave and Rage finally realize there is a strange face peering at them from the back porch? A porch that hangs a feet above the side of a mountain. Will the odd events continue in the little cozy hideaway? What will Dave find out about the odd occurrences in the little cabin village he has booked his stay in? Were the screams he and Rage heard just a fox, or is there more going on under the fall canopy of these woods? Tune in and find out. Welcome to Journey Through the Gate, your paranormal portal podcast, as we delve into the many questions and wonders brought on by the supernatural experience. What's on the other side of the gate? Let's find out together. case of Cabin 22. Part 2. Dave was deep into the chapter 2 of The Whistler. This really was turning out to be a good book, he thought, and he reached into the bag for a pork rind, almost made it halfway to his mouth, and thought he had lost count on the 2 for me and 1 for Rage's share. Sorry, boy. Here you go. He extended the snack toward his buddy and looked over the book towards Rage. He noticed a look he had seen before, and he slowly lowered the book and connected look to look with the dog. He gave a quick chin-up motion to Rage, a signal they both knew as a "what's up." He also almost mindlessly dropped the pork rind and slowly started to reach for the 12-gauge lying to his right along the back of the couch. Rage was slowly gesturing with his eyes to behind Dave, back at Dave, then behind him to Dave's right again. Dave understood. Slowly he held up his left hand, palm out, to a hold position, and Rage did just that. The dog went into full on-duty mode and locked his eyes on whatever he saw behind Dave. Dave reached the shotgun and in one moment rolled off the couch onto his knees and had the 12-gauge pointed at the same direction. Rage followed suit and took his position by his friend's side, paused forward and locked in. "Go, boy," he whispered, and Rage took off full tilt boogie toward the large picture window. Silent but deadly, Dave caught a glimpse of a large, dark figure pulling away from the glass and back off onto the porch. "Let him have it, Rage." The dog burst into a barking, growling warning that probably meant, "That's right, you son of a bitch, run!" Dave went to the door, opened it with one hand, and the 12-gauge pointed, and kicked the screen door. It banged against the back of the cabin, and Rage ran out barking and sniffing at the window, followed the scent down the porch floor, and directly to the railing on the back end of the porch. Dave followed the direction of his partner with the weapon, slowly moved toward the railing Rage was inhaling, and stared into the nothingness. My God, he thought, covering his left and right, down and then back again, with his gaze and the business end of the 12-gauge. "Where'd he go, boy?" Rage was silent and acting like he lost the scent. His head poked through the railing and looked down. Dave stopped for a second and listened. No anything. No rustle of leaves. No sounds of any kind, except an owl off in the distance. Dave looked down as far as the moonlight would offer and saw nothing. Easing the weapon to his side, he pet his friend's head, and they both just stood there in silence a moment. He had seen something big, something dark in that window. He glanced back now, doing his best to calculate the size. It had filled in the better part of the center of that huge picture window, he thought, and almost clear to its top. 6'4", 6'5", maybe, and wide. But the drop-off this porch was pretty damn steep and loaded with nature's security alarm, dried leaves. He moved to the side and looked down. Even here, there was nowhere to silently climb up. "Hold, boy." And Rage sat, on duty for sure now. Dave quick went inside, grabbed up the mag light he had brought, and put it in his back pocket, and grabbed the large Coleman spotlight he had. He joined Rage, and together they watched the light as it illuminated the trees and surrounding area. Nothing, not a damn thing. Just the darn owl off in the distance again. What the hell? Okay, boy, inside. They both went in, and Rage went back to the inside window, sniffing. Seemed like he was trying his best to figure out this too. Stay here, boy. I got this next part. Gonna go look around. He in no way wanted Rage to run after this, whatever it was, and spend the night chasing after them both. He slowly walked around the perimeter of the little cabin outside. When he went as far as he could onto the porch, he quick turned on the light. He held with the aim of the gun, directed at what he could see under the balcony of the porch. Rocks, sticks, of course leaves, and 2 Pabst Blue Ribbon cans faded with time. Slobs, he thought. As he made his way back inside, Rage was seated just inside the screen door and greeted him as if he had been gone a month. Okay, boy, I know. And it made him smile. It always did. I don't know what the hell is going on around here, Rage, but thanks for the heads up, buddy. Let's go lock her down and settle in. What do you say? They made the rounds from window to window, door to door on the inside, checking all the locks. Satisfied, he laid the 12-gauge on the couch and pushed the couch against the far wall, moved a little table from the corner, and shoved the couch there. He sat down, put the weapon on his lap, and leaned back. Better now, his back to the wall. Front door to his left, kitchen, picture window, back door, left center, doorway to the bedrooms, right center, and a solid wall behind him. Good. Odd how that always made him feel better. And for a moment he remembered watching an old Western as a kid. Wild Bill Hickok always took the chair with his back to the wall, and Dave never forgot this, always requesting the table with the best view of the entrance and his back to a corner. Honestly, he didn't know why he hadn't moved the couch to start with. He hadn't been himself lately. He was indeed coming back, though. And he looked up at Rage, who hadn't really gone into vacation mode, and he was very grateful for that. Rage now sat straight up in all his shepherd beauty, tongue goofy hanging to one side. He caught Dave's eyes and attention, and Dave gave him the what's up chin. And Rage looked down, then back up at Dave. Dave noticed Rage was sitting in a whirlwind of spilt pork rinds on the floor, and Dave said, "Go ahead, buddy. They're all yours." Rage jumped up and happily ate every single one. Dave got a beer, picked up the Grisham novel that had skidded across the floor, and looked one more time out the window. What the hell is going on around here? And how many times have I said that? We haven't even been here a day. I just don't know what's going on. And then he turned back to Rage, who had his spot now on the couch. You got that right, buddy. We could use some sleep. Jeb Perkins cut the lights off on his old Chevy pickup when he turned down the dirt road. He could drive this road blind, and if blind running drunk counted, he had. He'd take the next quarter mile by moonlight and memory, keeping prying eyes off him what he'd been up to. Only reason no one finds out what you up to is people don't get a chance to find out. Jeb's daddy used to tell him as a boy, and more than Jeb liked, His dead father's voice lived inside his head every day. Only way 3 people can keep a secret is that 2 of them are dead. You hear me, boy? These words were often echoed by a slap in the face, or Jeb getting knocked to the floor with his dad's size 13 work boot, and once, just for flavor and style, a punch to the gut that made Jeb sore enough to hide out in these caves for 2 days, coming out only to scrounge up some grub. You don't let nobody in your business, and you sure as hell don't let nobody in mine. He remembered, as if it was yesterday, and was proud in his 47th year that he had kept his dad's secret, and he kept his too. He had told his friend Skeet that the old man was hard, and he was an old cuss, but he's just trying to steer him right in an even harder world. Jeb was sure Skeet had bought this bullshit. He wasn't so sure about himself. He reached the little hill and just cut the engine and let the old Chevy roll to her stop, and the darkness hugged them both. The canopy off the dirt road was thick here, the underbrush and briar better. Jeb stepped out the truck, stood a second, and took out a hand-rolled bugle cigarette, one of 5 he allowed himself a day. He took a deep drag in like it was more than just tobacco, and felt the low-grade contents grab at his throat. Don't you wince, boy. Wincing is for sissy kids and losers. Which one are you? He shook off his father's echoes from the past, pulled a camo net out of the back of the pickup, and covered the truck. When he finished, he grabbed the 2 burlap bags of Farmer Bartlett's best corn out of the back of the truck and disappeared into the thicket of the hidden trail. Rage was snoring, laying on Dave's leg, and Dave's leg was most assuredly asleep, and he wished he was too. He glanced at his watch, one of the few people who still wore one, and it was pushing 2 a.m. And he was no closer to sleep than he had been an hour ago. He tried reading his novel, but every 2 sentences he'd catch himself looking toward the window. He reached out to the small table and grabbed the transistor radio he had brought. No doubt there would be no signals out here, but it was worth a try. He had seen a 48 news tower on the side of the mountain on his way up. There was a large building and another sign proudly stating, Home of Doppler Radar, with a smiling anchor, his sleeves rolled up like he was on the case for you. Dave chuckled and flicked on the radio.
Can't have me. Nope. Mr. Pop. Eat.
He turned the signal dial, and a man came through the speakers in mid-speech. I say to you, the Lord don't want your money. The Lord don't want your promises. He wants your heart, your soul, and your devotion. This last part broke into drawn-out syllables. Devotion. Dave turned the channel as raged open one eye. I know, boy, me either, and smiled. Hank Williams was just finishing Your Cheatin' Heart, and Dave didn't stick around to see what was next. He wasn't used to country music yet, loved some of it, but you had to be in the mood. He turned the dial, hitting spots ranging from white noise to crossover broadcasts. He found a woman talking in a soft accent for just a moment. She laid her hand on a gun, tears streaming down her face. Wow, a play of some kind? Maybe. And the white noise took over. He did his best to dial it back in. Just then, over the white noise, a distinctively different voice came through. A southern male voice, low and guttural, and clear, came over the white noise. "They killed me. Give it back. Why? Why?" Dave was startled at this and stared at the small radio like a face would appear on its surface. None did. Rage lifted his head to look at Dave. He waited, tried tuning the dial again. It must be part of the play. Neither he nor Rage believed that, and Dave turned it off. He laid his head back to ponder all that had happened in this little cabin in such a short amount of time they had been there. He drifted off to sleep, thinking over the day's events. One sack on his back, one dragging slightly to his left, a penlight in his mouth, Jeb struggled forward. The cave entrance was tight here, but he knew a few more feet and it would open wider and he could stretch the ache in his back. There were other entrances to tunnels in here too. Back when he was a boy, he could fit in some of them and ran in them all day long, hiding things here and there, little treasures he had collected no one knew about. Caves were his, the tunnels were his, and it opened up to him like a wondrous world. One, when he was younger, was so tight he'd had to crawl on his belly like a snake. Oh, but it was worth it, 'cause it opened into a huge spot, even had a bit of a natural lake in there. Bats and other animals would gather there, and that was okay. It was all his then, and that tunnel had a break in it that ran clear through the other side of this mountain and came out behind some wild muscadine bushes, all hidden like by what was now called that dead children's playground off by the RV park and the garage he worked at. That place made him shudder, and he did so now. These tunnels were like a friend to Jeb, and he knew them well. He came to a turn, and he could stand up now. Off in the distance he could see a light shining dimly from his destination. He could also hear Elvis echoing slightly from ahead. "Damn, Skeet," he said angrily. "I told him to keep that racket down." And he pressed on. He emerged to find Skeet, sitting on the old green couch he had made with orange crates and stolen lawn chair cushions. The colors of the flowers now faded, but odd in such a dank and dismal cave. Skeet was loading what he called his Widowmaker, a steel slingshot he had made down at the garage, and he had a bag of what Jeb was sure was steel ball bearings in front of him, sitting on an overturned crate covered with a rusty sheet metal. "Well, hey there, boy, thought you'd never make it up here tonight," he greeted Jeb, and Jeb dropped the 2 bags of corn in a steel drum and banged the lid on with a mallet that had sat by its side. "Skeet, I done told you to keep that noise down," and nodded toward the transistor radio. "But that's Elvis, man. You can't turn down Elvis." "Damn it, Skeet, you'll bring the law down on us for sure. Now turn it down." "Sure, you old worrywart. Ain't no one finding us up in here. Why, I'm betting no one but us and your old daddy been in here for 100 years and more." Skeet pulled the steel ball back, closed one eye, and let go. Whomp! The ball bearing flew through the air and made a direct hit into the head of a huge rat scurrying across the top of the steel shelves they had built about 10 years back. It hit so hard, it threw the rat up and back and hit a poster of the centerfold of Dorothy Stratton, duct taped to the plywood wall behind the shelves. Splat! The rat's blood sprayed all over Dorothy's smiling face and slid down the poster, leaving a trail, and hit the floor. Skeet! Oh, God, not Dorothy! Jeb ran up, pulled a sleeve of his flannel over his hand, and wiped the blood off Dorothy's face, making it worse, also making him think of how this beauty had died at the hands of her crazy husband. I'm sorry, Jeb. I told you I'd take care of these rats. There's so many. Traps ain't doing the job. I'm getting right good. Look at there. Jeb looked where he had pointed, and a pile of rats lay in a twisted nest of blood, guts, and gore. Jesus, man! Jeb took off his old greasy ball cap and wiped his forehead. Be careful with that thing, will you? And get those rats out of here when you leave, and be more mindful of my girls, will you? Jeb was proud of his collection of centerfolds. They covered the makeshift walls within the cave, from top to bottom. He had Pamela Anderson next to his dad's old Betty Page, and Anna Nicole next to a Farrah Fawcett he'd liked as much as his old daddy did. Shannon and Kelly and Kim Kardashian glorified the walls behind his daddy's still, and swayed sometimes when the mash got hot and steamed. Drew Barrymore smiled at him from above the sugar barrels, with her little butterfly tattoo. Marilyn was everywhere, and those he had put behind plastic poster frames he had got special on a run into town with his dad and Uncle Dean before he died, when he was just a boy. The room was covered in his girls, and stacks of old Wee and Hustler Playboys filled the room and shelves, along with the cases of mason jars and steel barrels of sugar and cracked corn and large water jugs among their beauty. It was his daddy's collection, and he had kept it a-going, as well as the family's business of being shiners. Bringing Skeet into this was not something he was comfortable with, but he needed the help. You checked those car batteries up the tunnel like I told you? I did. Changed all 3 out, hooked up the charged ones like you said. A makeshift exhaust system lined the far-off tunnel, heading away from the entrance. Small box fans and car batteries carried the smoke off and away to another exit on the far side of this cave. It worked fine to keep things flowing and the smoke out, but it still got damn hot in here when things got a-brewing. I brought in the sugar, too. It's there in the drum. And Skeet nodded toward the stash. She yielding good? Jeb reached down and picked up a mason jar filled with his dad's recipe, shook it and held it up, and watched the beads form on its top. Hell yes, just like she should, he smiled. I got to get this out to our buyer tomorrow. Truck all packed? Packed and ready. Just the last few cases to go. Truck's out in a spot, covered up like you taught me. Alrighty then. I'm counting on you. Payday's Friday, and this'll be a good one. Jeb set the jar back down in its wooden case and checked the still. It was a mix of the original his dad built and parts he had to fix himself. Welding was a favorite part of being a mechanic down at the garage, and he was good at it. He ran a finger down the copper tubing and thought about the years this old girl had fed him and his family. All of them gone now. Just me and you left, Sally. His dad's name for the still. Out of all his girls, she was his favorite of all. Okay, Skeet, you get those rats out of here. Keep your eye on Sally, and I'll be back in the morning. Before I open that garage, I gotta go finish that John Deere for Hampton, and he's gonna give us a cut on the corn for the next batch. Skeet leaned in and took a shot at another intruder. Whomp! This one sprayed blood on Jeb's jeans and landed on the jars of the shine. Jesus, Skeet, you gotta clean that up now. He swatted at the rat blood on his leg with his shirt sleeve again and grimaced. Get those traps running, will you? Sorry, Jeb. Skeet grabbed up some rags and started toward the jars. And don't you dare drink no shine tonight. I need you watching Sally. Okay, Jeb, Skeet said as he wiped down the jars. I'm all over it, and you can count on me. You know that, Jeb. You can count on me. All right, then. Skeet grabbed an empty crate, and he started to pick up the rats by the tail and put them in it. I'll be back in a couple of hours. Jeez, that's gross. And, well, have a couple of days off when we get this finished, okay? Skeet smiled up at Jeb, holding the rat by the tail. Blood dripped from its mouth, and Jeb shuddered, pulled the penlight from his pocket, and ducked off into the tunnel and toward fresh air. Skeet dropped the rat into the crate, wiped his hands on his jeans legs, and sat down on the couch, reached down under the metal sheet table top, and pulled out a jar, unscrewed the lid, turned up the radio, and drank to Travis Trent, singing, "Here's a quarter. Call someone who cares." Jeb uncovered his truck and eased up the road, not turning on his lights till he reached the road away from the cave. He felt a little off, a little skittish maybe, but he had a job to do at the garage, and he shook off the feeling and lit up another bugler. Halfway to the garage, he felt he needed to drain the snake, as he called it, and pulled over, got out, and walked off to the wood line, unzipped his jeans, and marveled at the relief he felt with this simple task. He watched hot piss run down the bush in front of him when he heard a growl. He froze in his place, and it came again from in front of him and within the thickness of the trees. A low, rumbling growl now, and Jeb looked toward it, squinting to see in the shadows. A bear? What, a wolf, maybe? He hadn't seen one ever out here, but he had heard tell. Just then he saw the shape of what looked like a large dog in the thicket. He swore he could see the glare of its teeth and a glint of an eye. He was frozen as he looked at the shape in the shadows. He was frozen right to the spot. Jesus, that's huge, he whispered, and the form moved closer. The snapping of sticks echoed its entrance into Jeb's space. And then it stood up. It was a dog, but not a dog, a wolf face, but stood like a man. Jeb's hypnotic trance broke when it opened its mouth in a snarl that made his blood run cold, and Jeb broke into a backwards run, almost fell, and banged into the passenger side of his truck. Quick opened the door, leaped in, and slid over, threw it into drive, and took off as this thing from the woods grazed its hand across the door, leaving a screeching sound of nails and metal. Jeb, sweating and hauling ass, looked at the side view mirror to see a massive abomination of man and beast leap back onto the cover of the wood in 2 big leaps. He had also pissed himself. As Dave and Rage finally slept, a few cabins down, George awoke to his wife Greta next to him, thrashing around as if in mid-nightmare. She was talking in her sleep, and it was sounding like nonsense to him, but he had learned to listen to her when she did this. They had been married 35 years, and Greta often had prophetic dreams, sometimes even telling him of things to come, warnings and such. Once she told him where he had packed the life insurance papers, and they were there, right where she said in her sleep. And Greta had not been anywhere near his office when he packed it up and retired. But there they were. The next day, Greta had no memory of ever saying a thing. George sat up on one elbow and leaned in, trying hard to hear what she was saying now. Greta spoke with a whisper. Roo-ga-roo, roo-ga-roo, roo-ga-roo. You have been listening to The Strange Case of Cabin 22, Part 2. Stay tuned to find out what happens in the cabin village atop this beautiful mountain. Will Dave and Rage encounter more ghostly going on in the cabin marked 22? What was that scared Jeb so much? What was Greta saying in her sleep? Was this just gibberish or a harbinger of danger to come? Who else is on this mountain? Tune in for Part 3 and let's find out together.